So the Rebbe was discussing how the neshamas have the power, dafke the neshamas have the power to um, elevate and to bring down godliness also all the ways to adira b'tachtonim in the lowest level. And he explained that in the name or the Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Yud is distinct from the K and the Vav. The K and the Vav have a connection. Because the Yud is much higher than the Hey and the Vav, that's why it can, from the Yud, it impacts the K Tachtoina b'derech dilug, in a jump away over, uh, not in the way of ishtalshlus, to come from the level of chokhmah to the level of malchus. And he also spoke about that the corresponding of the Yud K Vav K, the K in Vav is the Tzameach and the Chai. And that's the Malachim. There's Malachim called like Atzeyor and Chai is, and then you have the Yud is the Medaber. So he says, now, ועל דרך זה הוא גם ההפרש בין צמח וחי למדבר. Similar to the difference between the K and the Vav and the Yud is also the difference between the Tzemeach and the Chai, which are similar to the Hey and the Vav, to the Medaber, which is the Yud. Shebetzemeach v'Chai, by Atzemeach and Achai, hine gufom v'nafshom hein be'erech zelozeh. Their body and their soul, the bodies and soul of the Tzemeach and Chai, are compared to one another, which means there is not such a big difference, there's not such a big distance between the guf, the body of the Tzemeach, and the soul of the Tzemeach. Same by the Chai, there's not such a big difference between the body of the Chai and the nefesh of the Chai. And because they're compared to one another, and the guf and the nefesh were all created together. The nefesh is together with their guf because there is not a big difference. So when the Eibishter creates by the human being, the Eibishter first created the guf, and then the Eibishter created the nefesh. But by the animals and by the growing things, tzemeach, their nefesh and their guf were created at the same time. Kumesha kosuv tad shei ha'oretz, let the earth sprout forth, or toitza ha'oretz, let the earth bring forth. It brought forth both together. It didn't bring a doimem and then it put the neshama in there. It's the whole complete tzemeach came out together. Also in creations that are from the world that is covered, which is underwater, kesiv, that's the water, kesiv yishritzu hamayim, let the water swarm, shenivru kulam k'moishehem ata. They were all created as they're now. The whole animal was created at once. It wasn't a body and then a soul was put in them. They were created together. Masha enke bebriya sa'odom shenase gufoi tchila mugo. The human being, when he was created, first the Eibishter created the body, a limited body that is the guf. And these words, it's a little hard for me to understand. Kach nefesh hi mugbelis. that later on it happened, but the wording doesn't read so easy over here. But in any event, v'lochein yesh hagbolo v'hefsek b'shiras hamalochim kinal. Because the neshamas and the nefesh and the guf was created lechatchila by the malochim, that the gufam benafsham is ke'echad. That's why there is an interruption in the shiras hamalochim. So that's why the agam shashira hi mitzad nafsham, even though the song is from the soul of the Malachim, but he said that you can hear it. The Nevi'im were able to hear their song because it's a defined, a limited song that the Nevi'im were able to define it. It's a defined one because there's a limit over there. So even though never come yet there's still a limit and a stop. It stops, and that's why it is something that they can relate to, because even the nishnefesh of the malachim is also a limited, so it's therefore audible, and there's kodrash godel, as he said in the Maimer. Mash'enkin haneshames einom mugbolim klal. As opposed to neshamas are not limited at all. They weren't created together with the guf. They're not limited. The neshamas are not limited. So v'nishmas ha'odom she'enei megvelas klal. And then this neshama of the person, which is not limited at all, nislapsha beguf basar v'adam dafke. That has been dressed up in a body of flesh and blood. L'saknoi ulha'loisoi alidei ha'Torah, to fix it and to elevate it through Torah. Shebazeh nishlam klolus kavonas habriya. So with this, when you dress it up in a guf basar v'adam to elevate it, that completes the general intent of creation, is to elevate. Ukanal b'moshel, like we said earlier in the example habinyan of about a building, shetzorich la'agbiya mitachtisei davke, you have to raise it from the lowest level. So when we want to raise the world, you have to come down to the lowest level and raise it from there. Lasis as a oilam mishkan loy yisborech, to make the world into a mishkan for Hashem blessed. Lefi shenotz chilosam b'seifam b'tchilosam, because the beginning of the Eibishter's intention of having a world is stuck in the end, in the mata, in the lowest part. And this seifam b'tchilosam, and the end, that is stuck in the beginning. That was the nekuda, the kavanah l'chatchila. So a neshama, which is not mugbal, has the ability to come down all the ways to the mata, to mesakin it, as opposed to the nefesh of the malachim. They can't do it. That's the koyach of a yid, of the neshama of a yid. Hey, v'zehu b'shah she'ola Moshe lamore. And this is what the Gemara says, that when Moshe went up to the heavens, to the heights, b'hamalachim tanu mo'enosh kisiskirenu, and the malachim argued, what is man that you remember him? To know ha'tchal hashamayim, they asked the Eibishter to give his glory, his hood on the heavens. So the Eibishter didn't give them the answer. What the Eibishter did when the Malachim argued that man isn't deserving to get the Torah and that the Eibishter should leave it in the heavens for the Malachim. So the Eibishter didn't give them the answer, but the Eibishter said, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, LeMoshe Rabbeinu, the Eibishter says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hachzer lahem tshuva. You give them the response. The Eibishter wanted Moshe to give the response to the Malachim. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to give the response? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was the sample of a neshama beguf, and he can show and convince the malachim that the intention is a guf. V'hainu she'atshuva hisotzricha liyes meneshama beguf davke. The response needed to come from a soul dressed up in a body. She'neshama beguf hera lahem es hamayla she'beguf gashmi davke. It was a soul in a body, like Moshe Rabbeinu had to show them the advantage of specifically the physical body. And then v'oz hoidu hamalachim. Then the malachim agreed. Once they heard it from a neshama beguv, the malachim agreed. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, stated in the Gemara over there, that after the pasuk ma'enesh kisis kirenu, they follow the pasuk says Shenemar, Hashem Adonenu Mo'adir Shimcha Begomer. They say Hashem Adonai, how great. V'ilu T'noitcha L'Shamayim Lo Yiksiv. But it doesn't say anymore, give your glory on the heaven. Doesn't say anymore, which means that they were satisfied. How great Ma'adir Shimcha B'chol Ha'aretz, that the Eibishter's name is great in the whole land. They're not asking anymore for the glory to be on the Shamayim. And on the contrary, not only did they accept the argument of Moshe Rabbeinu that they didn't deserve the Torah, that v'kol echad ve'echad na'aseh loy oihev u'mosar loy dover. Each one and one of the angels became a friend of his, became somebody who he loves, and each one gave Moshe Rabbeinu, they gave him some secret, something that they had. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, Alisa lamorim shoviso shevi, you went up to the heights, to the heavens, and you've taken captive lokachas matonis ba'odam. You took gifts for the person, meaning you took the gifts from the malachim. That was Moshe Rabbeinu when Moshe Rabbeinu was on the Har Sinai. But then later on, they gave to all the v'achakach nosnu matonis. L'kol Yisrael. Then they gave gifts to all Yid. This is how they turned around. They accepted the argument that the Torah is davke neshamis beguf. Shezeu sheyordu shishim ribu malachi ashoris. What is the gifts they gave to everyone? That 600,000 angels that serve have descended. V'koshru lahem shnei ksorim. And they gave each one 2 crowns. It says keneged echad keneged na'aseh echad keneged nishma. They gave them 2 crowns. What does it mean that the angels gave them crowns? Shu inyan siyua hamalachim alaveda sa'odam. That is the support that the angel gave for service of the person. The man should be able to serve. So that means v'hainu. That means that the tmuras zeh shebitchila kitrego. Instead of that in the beginning they were critical, they criticized it. Hinehem atzmam hoidu v'siyu la'avoda sa'odam. They themselves agreed and they helped the service of the man. They gave them the kasarim. They helped the yid with his avoda. Similar to what's explained in Beis, bepirush sur meirav asei toiv, to take away from the bad and do the good. Here they took away the criticism and they brought it into good, that actually the malachim helped the yid. When did this agreement, admission of the Malachim for the Yidden? This specific ksorim which is a support for the avodah of a Yid, is when the Yidden proceeded to say Nasa will do before they said Nishma. This Nasa before Nishma is the advantage of the Neshamis beguf more than the Malachim, because the Shmiya, hearing Nishma, is in Yona Havona V'Hasoga. Listening means to understand and grasping She'inyan Zeh Yeshna Gam B'Malachim. That exists also. Malachim have Shmiya. They understand because they know. Amnam Yisrael Hegdimu Nasa Nishma. The Yidden, they proceeded to say Nasa before Nishma. What does that mean? Sheheru Esmailas Asiya. They showed the advantage of doing Nasa. Mailas Doimem Davke. They showed the advantage of the inanimate, not the Hasoge, but the doing, the Doimem. Va'oz hoidu hamalachim al nisinas ha'toiro liyisrael lemato davke. And at that point, the malachim agreed to give the Torah lemato to the Yidden davke because of the advantage of asiya, of doing, the maila of the lowest of the doimim. Ubechlal zeh, and that included hoiso Gam hoida osam alasiyas mishkan. They also agreed for making the mishkan. As we said, that the Malachim had three arguments midainim against the Yidden. One of them was the mishkan, and this agreement that they agreed for the Torah to be given to the Yidden includes also their agreement that the Mishkan should be making the Mishkan. Shezehu echad mishloisha mikoymes shehoyam alochim medainim keneged HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that was one of the three places that the angels were judging against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which Hashem wanted to give it to the Yidden, and they objected. But they agreed that the Asiyas HaMishkan hu tachlis kavonas habriya. Making the Mishkan is the ultimate intent of the creation, is to make Adir Lo Yisbarech as through Torah. It says, V'ikir hatachlis einay b'hamishkan shehoya b'midbar. The main ultimate goal was not in the Mishkan that was in the Midbar. The goal was for the later Beis Hamikdash, which was made out of wood, a stone, not wood. Wood is a tzemeach. The mile of Daimim is the third Beis Hamikdash, or the Beis Hamikdash. V'ikra tachlis eine b'hamishkan shoy b'midbar. Ki im b'ikim mishkan shiloi, but rather by the mishkan that was in Shiloi, u'b'ikra b'bayis Elomim, and mainly in the eternal home in the Beis Hamikdash. And because you see, the pasuk says, you had not come till now to the rest of Nachla. Menucha is Shiloi, and Nachla is Beis Elomim, which means the ultimate goals are the other Beis Hamikdash, not the Mishkan. But the Ilah Mishkan Hoya Ara, Mishkan was temporarily. So why is the goal only achieved in the later on Beis Hamikdash, Beis Elomim? Because of a dir was made from doimem versus the mishkan was made from wood, which is semer. So ultimately, the mile is in the doimem. V'hainu lifisha mishkan hoyo me'atze shitim oimdim. That was made of cedar wood that were standing. Shehu dugma serafim oimdim. That's also compared to serafim that stand. So that's the level of malachim. So that's not yet the ultimate level of dira betachtonim in the doime. Ubemishkan shilui netoisav gam avonim. And the Mishkan shilui, they added also that there were stones. The roof was still made of the tzemeach, but there was now stones in the structure. But the Beis Hamikdash was from stones, the inanimate, the doimen. So that was the main Beis Hamikdash, was when it came down also in the doimen. Move on. And from this we understand, if in the Mishkan that the person makes, mainly is the doimim and not the tzemeach, which means the beis elomim, which is mainly made out of stones, out of doimim, and not in the tzemeach, which is the Mishkan. So for sure, that mainly it's not the angels. The angels are like the tzemeach and the chai. It's the main thing is the yid with the oidzos. And furthermore, shebechlal hoida osam al asiyas hamishkan, that when they agreed for making the mishkan, the malachim, not just for the Beis Hamikdash, as we said now, but specifically the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. Nichlolim gam ha'hoida ala Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. This also includes the mission agreement for the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. Shareba Mishkan Kisiv, because in the Mishkan it says V'chein Tasu, you shall do so. What does it mean? Make them V'chein Tasu Razal. Our sages of blessed memory tell us that Tasu means Ledoidus. That is for the generation. So in the Mishkan it's included already the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. You should do it for the generations that to come. Sheikir Hatachlis Bazeh Hu Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. The ultimate goal is actually the third Beis Hamikdash, not just Beis Hamikdash, but v'chein tasu l'doires the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. Sheyiyeh naila yoser gam mi Beis Elomim shoyo koidem. That is going to be even on a higher level than the internal home, than the Beis Hamikdash that was before that. Dagam shegam hu hoyo b'oifim shel keva v'loy b'oifim shel arai ke'hamishkon. Even though that the previous Beis Hamikdash was a permanent structure and not in a way of temporary like the Mishkan. So even the first Beis Hamikdash, the second Beis Hamikdash, they were permanent structures, but yet but still they weren't completely permanent, because after that there was destruction and there was exile. Berak bebeis hamikdash hashlishi shelo yiyah acharov golus, and only on the third Beis Hamikdash, which there will be no golus. So that means that it will be really permanent. Yiyah iker ha'inyan the diras keva. That will be the main idea of a permanent dwelling place. Uba'ofen shel dira, in the way of a dwelling. Dwelling means the person lives fully. Kemoshel diras melech basar vadam, as the example of a dwelling place of a king of flesh and blood, which means when we say that the king lives there, he lives there fully, all of him, his whole essence, shador bahadira b'chol atzmusei, that he lives inside that dwelling place with his entire essence. So v'gam inyan zeh haya kolul b'shas matan Torah. This idea of the whole world should be adira for Hashem is included when the Eibishter gave the Torah. The Keshem shebemat shas matan Torah. Hoya hadibur anoichi nishma mikol vov haktzoves. The saying, when Hashem said anoichi, you can hear it from all six corners of the world. You can hear anoichi. That means all space, all place was part of that Anoichi. That in the future it says that God's glory, Hashem's glory, will be revealed, and all flesh will see. Shebechol ruach mevova ktsoves yiru elokus. That from all four corners, all sides, is going to be visible godliness. Ubaydos hamalochim al nesinas hatoyre lemato, and when the angels admitted for giving the Torah below, nichlal gam hida osam al binyan beis hamikdash b'shlishi, also their admission on the third beis hamikdash hashlishi, shos yiv nigla kved havai v'ro pol kavosar yachdov kipi havai dibur. Then it will be revealed the glory of Hashem, so all flesh will see that Hashem had spoken, which means the dira b'tachtoinim, v'yiyeh havaya chod u'shmaya chod, and Hashem one, and His name is one. Okay, so this is the mimer here, and again, I see a big difference in the mimer and the detailed and the breakup, everything. There's a huge, huge difference between the way it is in the Mugadika mimer and the way it's in this mimer. Okay, but this is included in this series. So we have one more mimer for Shavuos, and we'll start the Mitzvah tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Bye.